Vince McMahon was doing an interview, and TNA was brought up here. This is back in 2010, and here's what he had to say: "We're in a different business. We're in the entertainment business. They're in the pro wrestling business. It's different markets. When they moved to Monday nights, they threw the kitchen sink at us and only did a fraction of our audience. It doesn't speak well for the type of product they're trying to present with the tawdry, blood-soaked action. I don't think that's what the culture wants these days." And Dixie Carter would respond by taking it as an honor to be called Tawdry by the king of Tawdry. And Eric Bischoff responded to being called Tawdry, noting that when he worked for McMahon, Vince scripted angles where he made out with Vince's wife and Vince's daughter. And he was also forced to introduce segments called Hot Lesbian Action that were at first tried to market before it wasn't successful in the ratings and it was stopped. And Meltzer would say it was amusing to see Vince play Eric, who was saying the same things in late 98 and 99 about how Vince was going into this risque direction and it was going to alienate the audience and sponsors. And of course, Bischoff also brought up how Raw's been doing a low rating the week before Mania and how the UFC has been kicking WWE's ass in pay-per-views. I love that we got another round of this Bischoff versus McMahon stuff. But Bischoff brings up a great point. You can't say it's tawdry, make out with my wife, make out with my daughter, introduce the hot lesbian action. Maybe we live in a glass house here and we shouldn't be throwing those stones.
Well, look, as we sit here today and in May of 2025, we all kind of get a chuckle at it because we've seen it's how the business literally rolls in that, you know, we can call Vince the master chess player or the positioner, but it's business. He was making fun of Ted Turner and pro wrestling. I chuckled even back then at just kind of his position, and you learn a lot from it in that him responding that way, he gets his diplomatic digs and appears to be saying he knows damn well he did hot lesbian actions and everything with that, but he's playing the character right here of Mr. McMahon in a sensational way and appearing as if he's taking the high road, which is a chuckle in and of itself. Just the avenue, but he got in there. We kicked their ass on Monday, and we did this and we did that. Again, whether it's Keller or Mike Johnson or whoever it may be, you know, it's always been reported, the internal documents about, and I respect that. You know, when I went back in 2019, the amount of emails that are compiled from all kinds of sources and data research and all that, but there's always a listing of competition and whether it's another professional wrestling, it doesn't matter, or it's Disney on Ice or the NBA. Vince understood, I'm going to stand out from the crowd and say what I need to say and position my company in the best possible manner as it relates to this specific situation. Now, you can ask him 3 hours later and he'll have a different stance.
We should talk a little bit about the numbers. I know the U.S. ratings are down because of this Monday move, but the U.K. numbers are growing ever since Hogan, Flair, and Bischoff arrived. So maybe there's a new coat of paint, as Bruce likes to say. Foley is going to be addressing that when he accidentally smashed Bubba the Love Sponge's nose, it was truly an accident. That happened in late March. And he says, I know some people will claim that I hit him on purpose because of the Awesome Kong incident, but that is not the case. I spoke to Bubba the day after the deal and told him how I felt about it, and then had a chance to discuss it on Bubba's show and even write about it on the TNA website. So as far as I'm concerned, there was no problem. Of course, he has a MySpace blog in this era, and he's sharing he's 45 and he feels like his wrestling road is coming to an end. And Meltzer's saying that he likes the idea of having perhaps a recurring role on The Daily Show on Comedy Central, where he's had some success. And he's starting in this era to take some stabs at doing unpaid comedy gigs in New York. So we know that worked out. He's now on the road like every single day doing stand-up comedy as he approaches his big swan song. I guess he's got a plan for how he wants to end it, but that exit strategy started 15 years ago. How about that?
And you know what? When I read this, I chuckled at MySpace.
Yeah.
Swift got her start on MySpace, and I guess Mick did too. But even back then, or maybe more so back then, and look, there are so many different views. Stone Cold came out and made some comments this week about the Magic and Harry Houdini, and as it relates to the WWE writer's room reality show they're going to do. And this came up, I kind of went down that lane, and it's like social media is so different for everyone. Everybody looks at it through a different lens. And look, in a lot of ways, it does make it more compelling. For me, I had to ask my question. All right, so we're going back to 2010. Why did Mick feel the need to position himself to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I potated Bubba"? I think there's a disconnect in that. But look, to each his own. Can't control people, places, or things. So Mick, have at it. But Conrad, does that feel disconnected to you for 2010 or even 2025?
I think he was trying. I think it was because it was on the heels of an incident with Bubba and Awesome Kong. I think he just wanted to say, not involved. Don't want any of that stink or controversy on me. And I think had he not addressed it, people would have said, "Oh, and then Awesome Kong or TNA had Mick do that to Bubba," and that wasn't the case. It was just, shit happens. So I think in this case, I see why he would have said, "Nope, I don't want any part of that controversy."
All righty, then we'll move on.
Consequences Creed is now Xavier Woods. You guys had him under contract. He was your youngest wrestler under contract, and he was working with TNA while he got 2 degrees. And when you guys were in a bad spot at the Bound for Glory show in 2007, where it was supposed to be Ron Killings and Pac-Man Jones defending their tag team titles, well, the Titans said, "No thanks," and threw the flag on that. And here comes Consequences Creed instead. And I guess not much happened with him after that. You guys cut him loose here. I know that's not technically your decision, but we know he went on to much greater things. My goodness, the run he's had with WWE and New Day is unbelievable. In an alternate universe, could he have been one of TNA's biggest stars?
I'll never forget, because I was right. I was, a lot of what, yes, it was my idea, because Pac-Man kind of had a rough idea. But what we talked about, what his agent said we could do, what was discussed, what we kind of planned on doing, what the Titans kind of heard with an open ear once I went down and went into the Titan offices and said all of that. And okay, and like, hey, the worst thing that I want to happen is Pac to get hurt, because that was that was really, look, Pac can't play football right now, but we damn sure don't need him going and getting hurt. So anyway, all that, what happened, obviously it didn't work out. That's for another episode and everything go with it. But out of that kind of completely crazy, messed up deal, I thought by far the best thing to kind of come out of that screwed up creative process is that we got the opportunity to get Creed on board. And Xavier, look, that image that just looked at him with the flag and the look, he's got charisma written all over him. And so he was in school, getting his degree, took obviously everything about him I respected, in that he took the business serious, he took his education serious, he took life serious, that and it's obviously 15 years later, we're seeing all the fruits of his labor, just how successful he's been. But great guy, good dude, loved it. Again, he got caught in the crosshairs like a lot of folks, in that Hogan made no bones about he was bringing in his own crew pretty quickly as well.
SaveWithConrad.com.
Hey, I'm Justin Ruffin from Knoxville, Tennessee. What got me to Save with Conrad was the 83 Weeks podcast. I really wasn't thinking about getting rid of any debt. I just wanted to cash out some equity in the house to do remodeling. But I did both, so that was pretty awesome. Worked out great. We redid the foyer, built pantry space, and there's like little odds and ends when I first bought the house that I wanted to take care of, and we were able to take care of it. So, yeah, paid off 2 cars and some credit card debt. So probably all in all, get $30,000 in that, and then I got some $30,000 more equity out of the house, and still plenty of equity left over. So payment's good. I lowered my interest rate. They're in a much better spot than I was. Super easy. Everybody was great. Very, very awesome people. Francis and Steve were great to work with. They're awesome. Made it for a very easy, seamless experience. I'd probably say all in all, probably $1,000 a month at least. I'm lowered my interest rate, especially the way the interest rates are right now, which is, that's amazing. I'm Justin Bruckman from Knoxville, Tennessee. I saved over $1,000 with SaveWithConrad.com, and I did a lot of renovations with that money as well.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.
SaveWithConrad.com.